Hi, my name is Karen Whittemore. For those of you who don't know me, I am a family nurse practitioner. I have been in practice for 25 years now. And in all my time in medicine, I have never seen anything like the LifeWave technology with the LifeWave patches. And today I kind of wanted to talk about, first of all, a little bit about the patch and how it works and how it might benefit you. Then I want to go into, I've been doing a little series talking about the placebo and nocebo effect and how to maximize the effect of the patch, and wanted to go into a little bit about getting into that theta state for maximum use of placebo effect to enhance the patch even further. So this little patch has organic nanocrystals embedded in it. And our body is constantly emitting light. So the LifeWave patch, it elevates the peptide, copper peptide, for the activation of stem cells, and it's clinically proven to enhance overall health and vitality. And what's happening is our bodies emit light. We are light beings. If you were to look at somebody with night vision goggles, you would see it. We think of it as heat, but that form of heat is actually in the far infrared spectrum. And as that light hits the patch, it gets infused, embedded with this frequency that goes then into our body, signaling our body to stimulate copper peptide. And when our copper peptide is going good, then our stem cells are also activated and working. This is a lot like when you go out in the sun and the sun's light hits your skin. That frequency, that particular frequency, tells your body to start making vitamin D. It's not giving you vitamin D, it's signaling your body to start making vitamin D. And that's what frequency medicine is all about. Thomas Edison, back in his day, no, Albert Einstein, wrong scientist. Albert Einstein in his day said that frequency medicine is the medicine of the future. And I really believe that. And I believe it's here. But just, stem cells, we lose them as we get older, and we need them to be able to make the repairs in our body, to be able to restore things and have good balance. And so it's harder for us to heal as we get older. But just the stem cells, that is a great benefit of the X39 patch. But the copper peptide alone is also a wonderful benefit just in that. And this is what the National Institutes of Health says on their website. It says GHKCU stimulates blood vessel and nerve outgrowth and increases collagen and elastin for visible anti-aging. Copper peptide's ability to improve tissue repair has been demonstrated for skin, lung connective tissue, bony tissue, liver and stomach lining. Copper peptide has also been found to possess powerful cell productive actions, such as multiple anti-cancer activities, anti-inflammatory actions, as well as having anti-anxiety, anti-pain, and anti-aggression activities. So this is a lot just in a little tiny patch that you just put on for 12 hours each day. And the person who came up with this, David Schmidt, is our founder and CEO of LifeWave. He has over 130 US patents. He is a scientist and inventor and a two-time recipient of the Advanced Technology Award of the International Hall of Fame. And if you've ever listened to David, you will know that he is just genuinely a good person who really cares about people. He first came up with this idea when he was trying to help the military, the Navy, to be able to find a way for Navy SEALs to stay submerged in mini subs for 30 hours without the need of stimulants. And he came up with the energy enhancer patch at that time. And he realized he had something so special that it needed to be available to the world. And so that's when he came up with, he developed the LifeWave company and has brought this, and he's got other technologies, he's got other patches and other things that he's planning on bringing out to us as well that are really going to help our world as a whole. I really, truly believe that. So what are some of the benefits that you might receive from the X39? Well, a lot of people have had rapid pain relief, reductions in inflammation. In fact, studies show within 24 hours, inflammation is reduced, which is major, since that is a key component to just about any disease process or illness that you can think of. It supports wound healing, energy and vitality, mental clarity. It enhances sports performance, faster recovery from exercise, and improved skin appearance. So there's all of these wonderful benefits that people have noted. And I know that a lot of you, I'm sure everybody has heard by now about the tragedy, and it could have been much worse yesterday. It doesn't matter what side of the political scale that you're on, but seeing Donald Trump, our former president, have his ear grazed by a bullet, that's a scary thing. But it reminded me of when we had some images from one of our LifeWave members having an injury to his ear that was completely split open, and how rapidly it healed with the X39. I kind of hope that somebody will send him some X39 and help with his healing, because we've seen such amazing stories with that. So I want to go into a little bit about the placebo effect in how we can actually create some of our problems, because understanding that and understanding how that theta wavelength of the brain can help us, and it can also harm us when we're not really aware of our own powers and abilities, really. And to talk about that, I really wanted to share a story. And this is not to say that I don't believe in the power of the patch. I really believe in the power of the patch. I have a friend who used these patches, and after 20 years of not being able to taste anything or smell anything, for 20 years after having her skull cracked open, after using the patches, she used the X39 along with the 3YH series of patches. And within 3 months, she started smelling and tasting again. And this was without meditation or any heavy intentional work. It just happened. She wasn't expecting it to happen. So I know these patches work, but I think that with our intention and a little meditation, we can actually enhance the power of the patch, or help even direct the flow of the patch. So I want to tell you a story about Laurie. Laurie, at the age of 19, was going to school. She was a very active, beautiful female on the college campus, busy going to school. And her big dream was to be a champion bodybuilder. So she was constantly working out with weights and building up her strength. But for a year, she had been having a lot of pain in her right leg that she really didn't understand, and finally went in and had it checked out. She was shocked to hear that she had a fracture in her femur bone. All along the bone was this huge fracture. She hadn't been in any trauma. There was no reason why she should have had a fracture. Well, I got the news that she had a very rare genetic disorder called polyostotic fibrous disease. This is very rare. And what happens is, as your bone is repairing itself, instead of replacing with new healthy bone, it replaces with this poor imitation fibrous material that's very weak, and it will swell up and then it'll fracture. And she had this disease in her right hip, her right femur, her right tibia, fibula, and her right foot. And the only thing that she'd really noticed besides the pain with walking was that her right foot was larger than her left foot. She didn't understand why, but this was devastating to hear, because here she was wanting to be this champion bodybuilder. She saw herself as this strong, healthy person, and to hear this was horrifying, because what she found out was that she would probably have fracture after fracture after fracture during her lifetime. Her father wanted her to see multiple orthopedic surgeons and get different opinions, because the first surgeon said, hey, what we need to do is we need to just put this giant nail down through your femur bone to strengthen that bone and give it some support. And every doctor that she went and saw told her the same thing, until she got to her final doctor, who said, well, that's a bad idea, because if you put that nail down there, it's going to strengthen the area where the nail is, but it's going to be weaker in all the secondary areas, and they're going to even fracture faster. You're best off if you just use crutches the rest of your life, or even better yet, a wheelchair, or even better yet, just be sedentary for the rest of your life. So how devastating to hear that when she wanted to be this strong, healthy person, and now she's being told that she's basically going to be in a wheelchair the rest of her life, or just end up after fracture after fracture, just from walking, just from ordinary daily activity. Well, over time, in her 20s, she started really internalizing this disease process. She did notice some benefits. She noticed that she didn't have to stand in line for long periods of time. Her friends would do it for her because she was, handicapped. She was disabled. Friends would go out and get her things, so she didn't have to do anything. So it did have its advantages. It also had another advantage for her. Her father was a very abusive man, and he physically abused them as they were children, and it continued even as adults. And now, because she was weak and fragile, she was hands off. He never touched her again. He wouldn't hurt her because she had this condition. So it did work to her advantage. But over the years, she realized that, that actually played a role in her developing this process in the first place. As infants, we are in delta wave from the time we are born until we're about 2 years old. Between the ages of 2 to 6 years old, we spend most of our time in theta waves in our brain. Now, as we talked about last week, it's that theta that is when we are most suggestible. Between the ages of 6 to 12 years old, we go into our alpha thinking, and then from 12 years old through the rest of our life, we go into our beta thinking, which is more logical thinking. So when she was between the ages of 2 to 6, suffering this abuse, she developed the core belief that she was a weak, fragile person. Now, consciously, she saw herself as somebody who was strong, but that doesn't happen on a conscious level. The theta is more the subconscious. We're not even aware that these core beliefs are within us. But these core beliefs created proteins in her body. These proteins turned on peptides, and these peptides turned off and on particular genes, so that she ended up having this rare genetic disability. So she spent these years chronically nursing multiple fractures, usually at the same time. She developed scoliosis, which is very common with this particular disorder. And when she was in her late 30s, she happened to be watching a show called What the Bleep. And Dr. Joe Dispenza was on that, and he was talking about how to change your brainwave patterns. And she thought, is this even possible? Could I actually do this? And she got a hold of him and talked to him. She met with him at dinner and decided to go to some of his workshops. And by the way, the story is coming out of his book, You Are the Placebo. So she decided to start taking the information to heart, and she started meditating and trying to change her patterns of thinking. So she became more and more aware of how she had become in this state of victimhood and self-pity. And what made it worse is that when she needed something, when she needed help from somebody else because she worried about injuring herself, sometimes people wouldn't believe her because she looked like this healthy young woman. They couldn't see what was actually happening with all of her bones. And so she would really have to play out the part and always bring up her disability. So she was constantly bringing up her disability, showing people how weak and vulnerable she was so that other people would believe it. But the more she did that, the more she ingrained that into her own being. And so she had to start changing her vocabulary. She started catching herself. She said she would catch herself like 20 times a day, saying the same old patterns of words, and had to change and tell herself, change, 20 times a day. And she was meditating, and she knew that in order to be successful with change, she had to have the feeling as if change had already happened in her body. But she said it was 2 years before she even remotely felt like she could believe the things that she was envisioning during her meditations, because she didn't feel it. It just felt like a lie. She felt like she was lying to herself. Well, she went to a particular workshop one day with Joe Dispenza, and she had an experience that literally and figuratively rocked her to her core. Her body started moving, and she started making all of these sounds, and tears started streaming down her face. And she stated that she felt like there was this divine presence there that was reminding her that she was loved, that she was not forgotten, that somebody else on the other side, something on the other side, knew of her plight and cared about her. And she said that that really changed everything for her. And she started more vigorously meditating and feeling more of those emotions of being healed, of being whole, of not having the physical problems that she had. When she went to the next workshop, she wasn't using any crutches. She wasn't walking with a cane, and she wasn't walking with any pain. Now, this all happened, this was clear back in 2013. So this was way before the X39 could have been helpful to her. I think the X39 and probably the X49 could have been of benefit to her. But during those times, she didn't have access to any of these things. She was all on her own, trying to affect change. And she was affecting change just with her own being, with her own changing of her thinking and changing of her feeling and changing of stopping seeing herself as disabled and weak, but as seeing herself as something different. And when she went to her orthopedic surgeon and they did the x-ray of her, for the first time ever, the orthopedic surgeon was shocked because the fracture in her femur that had been there since she was 19 years old, and now she's in her late 30s, it had been there since she was 19 years old. 3/4 of it had just, like you said, vanished. It wasn't there. Now, usually we can see evidence of a fracture. We see bone remodeling on the x-ray, but what he was seeing is it was as if it had never happened. That gave her a lot of hope. What got her discouraged again was when she had blood work that showed, no, you're still in active disease. You still need to be just careful. But she still used her meditation and plugged through it. And a year later, when she went back, for the first time in her entire life, since 19, she had no fractures on the x-rays. And her blood work was completely normal. So many of us are of this belief that if it's genetic, it is just something that happens to us. There's nothing we can do about it. It's just fate. But apparently that can't be true, because she had a genetic condition and she was able to reverse it completely. So what she had unconsciously, subconsciously created, she was capable of uncreating. So if getting into that theta state, she developed that core belief. How do you get into a theta state to help uncreate or create something new in your reality? Well, think of theta as the time between being awake and asleep. Some people call it body asleep and mind awake, that kind of twilight state. And it's easiest to fall into that as we're falling asleep and when we first wake up in the morning. Now, Dr. Dispenza does not recommend meditating while you're just lying in bed, because he says that you want to associate the bed with sleep, and you don't want meditation to interrupt your sleep. But for me, I kind of find that that's kind of a nice time to at least get a few minutes in that theta state where I can just project my intention with a positive emotion, such as gratitude. I'm so grateful for being whole. I am so grateful for my vision being perfect. I am so grateful for my skin being pure. I'm so grateful for this. I'm so grateful for that. Or a sense of joy, a sense of self-love. So when we are in those positive states, we can actually start connecting with the quantum field and bringing into our reality, bringing a probability into reality. In fact, that's what happened for me. I told you before that I was going to tell you the story about how I had suddenly manifested $5,000. So this is what happened for me. Is I had read Joe Dispenza's Becoming Supernatural book, and he talked about doing mind movies. So he has you, there's actually a website you can go to. I think it's mindmovie.com, but there's slides that you can pick, and you put together your own little mind movie, and you pick music that's really going to uplift you so that it helps get you in that positive mood. And I thought for fun, I would just throw in, they had a stock picture of gold coins, and I just threw that in there with a caption, "Money flows lovingly and freely towards me." And I would watch that twice a day. And a couple of months after I started watching that, an old acquaintance that I hadn't talked to for years had suddenly emailed me out of the blue. And I didn't even know him that well. He was a fan of my music as a singer-songwriter. But we got talking, and that Christmas, just a couple months later, he sent my husband and I $5,000. That kind of thing doesn't normally happen, and I don't think it would have happened if I hadn't increased the possibility and made it more probable in the quantum field by doing the work that I was doing. Now, when I was thinking about doing this little talk today, I really thought, it would be so cool. I have this word on my finger that I've been trying to get rid of. And I thought, gosh, it would be really awesome if I could get into those theta waves this week and work on having my skin be clear, and not being mad at my work for being there, but thanking it for allowing me this opportunity to work on my manifestation, and thank it for its being there so that I could work and move on. And I was so excited yesterday when I noticed, oh my gosh, my ward isn't there. It's like, it was like, yes, this stuff is powerful and it works. We can get into that theta state and manifest different things for ourselves. And if we can do that, man, think of how much we could do enhancing these patches. And what I've started doing for myself is when I put my X39 on, I almost treat it like it's a sacred thing. And I say, thank you, X39, for stimulating and helping my stem cells to heal my body today and keep me youthful. Thank you, Aeon, for helping me with my inflammation. Thank you so much, glutathione, for helping to detoxify my body today. And as I take my patches off at the end of the day, I once again say, thank you. Thank you for helping detoxify my body. Thank you for helping bring down my inflammation. And I think the more we consciously say that and appreciate it, I think the more we can have that wonderful interaction of having these things work for us. I've taken up enough of everyone's time. Thank you so much for being here. Next week, I really want to start a new series. So this was more on the placebo and nocebo effect. But I really want to talk about another kind of series going into how we can enhance the patches by being in coherence, which is a whole other thing. And I want to get more into the quantum realm and all of that fun stuff. So got some fun, exciting things to talk about with you in the future. Thank you again for joining me. Love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.